Stuart, I have a question.
Yes.
Should we be bringing our joy, our gratitude, do we bring that to the navel chakra to be transformed?
First of all, who's talking?
It's me, Rachel, right here.
Okay, I'm sorry. Just repeat the
It's okay.
question.
The question is, we bring our negative psychic tension to the aura. Should we
Yeah.
also be bringing our joy and our gratitude down to the third chakra?
Look, you should have, no, look, the attention of the mind should be in the chakra below the navel. That attention will bring with it both positive and negative energies. If you feel joy, if you feel gratitude, I would suggest that offer that up to higher energy in the universe. Let that joy and that gratitude go to the spine and let it move up the spine to higher energy in the universe. The return will be remarkable. Instead of, people lamenting and complaining and why is life so miserable? I mean, people have to start offering up gratitude for the gift of life, joy, happiness for the gift of life. Offering that up will bring back enormous gifts. Suddenly you recognize how the world you live in is a sacred place. And yes, there are very negative things that go on in this world, but even the negative things teach us how to detach, how to get deeper in ourselves so that we don't allow the negative things to drain us of our energy. So this works in many ways. Bringing negative energy in yourself to the chakra below the navel is an amazing way of freeing yourself of depression, unhappiness, just walking around in kind of a muddle, of who you are and who you think you are. It gives you the power to open your heart. The heart is open, you can offer up to the universe gratitude, love, happiness. You can offer that up to people in your life. It becomes part of your verbal communication. And what interferes with it is the negative energy. That's what interferes with it. That conflict that is constant in the human mind. That conflict which really dams up and blocks up the flow of Shakti inside us. We have to build the power in ourselves to draw that conflict to the chakra below the navel. It becomes harmony, it becomes balance, it becomes the strength you need to keep your heart open, it becomes the strength you need to keep your mind quiet, the strength you need to really allow the flow of sexual energy to activate Kundalini. That is where the power comes from. What interferes with it is all the tension and negativity in human beings. And then the blaming the external world for everything that's wrong with us. And to me, I mean, when I was a kid, yeah, I blamed everything, politics, money, everything. And as I grew in myself, I began to realize, no, it's me. That stuff is not going to go away. Nobody has ever really changed it in the history of the world. But I can get strong enough in myself to detach from it and use it as a reminder of what my purpose is here in life. And then one interacts with a different world. You begin to see a whole new kind of reality, and how there really isn't negativity. There's just reminders that we as human beings have to grow. And we need to stop complaining about it, and we need to grow inside ourselves to get strong enough to keep our hearts open. Heart is open, the world changes, or at least the way we see the world changes. Because there's always going to be wars and all that madness that goes on in the world. Genocide, wars. Every time I read the media, they're declaring war on another country. It's always going to go on. But we can get strong enough and use it as a reason to build a connection with higher energy in the universe and to free ourselves of karma, to become one with God, higher energy. And I promise you, you do these kind of things and you are living in a different world. Now, what I'm talking about is not easy to do. God bless, it's not easy to do. But I will remind everyone, including myself, the only person we're up against is ourselves. We're not up against the lunatics that run governments, the economics of the world. We're not up against that. We're up against ourselves. And once we get free of ourselves, we can deal with anything. And this takes time, it takes work, it takes patience, it takes a monumental effort, a commitment to a spiritual life, a commitment to growth, a commitment. I always say you don't even have to believe in God, but there isn't a person alive on the planet Earth that doesn't want to be happy, to have joy and love in their life. Very good question. Thank you. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Stuart, I have a question.
Yes.
I seem to be learning a lot these days about setting healthy boundaries with other people, and I'm learning that it's a self-discipline.
Can
And
I ask who's asking the question? Usually a green light goes around.
I'm sorry, it's Derek, Stuart.
Who?
Derek.
Derek. Okay. No, you're not on my screen, Derek.
There's some arrows on the
Yeah, I
right and
know.
left.
I know where it
Okay.
is.
Anyway, that the core of my understanding of boundaries is the exercise you teach. Can you talk about um, um, the importance of having healthy boundaries with people?
Well, look, as human beings, we interact with other people, some very closely, some not so closely. And if we change inside, and our capacity is to interact with them with compassion, with forgiveness, with love, understand? It really lifts us as human beings. These people are part of our karma. And we need to learn how to begin to see people in a way where we have compassion for them, we have love for them. We can share our joy, our love, but not as lectures, not as, you understand, dumping this great spiritual practice I do. You don't become the kind of the Baptist of Kundalini yoga. It comes through like silence, through this feeling in your heart, and that gives you the ability to communicate with another human being. And we all need to have people in our lives. I mean, why are we here? I remember I've told this story before. It's a wonderful story. There used to be a young lady who came into my gallery years ago, and she was a Tibetan nun. She was an American woman, but she dressed as a nun and shaved her hair and took those kind of vows. And she said to me, she used to tell me over and over again, she was a good friend of mine, she told me over and over again, her dream was to go and find a cave in the Himal and to spend all her time alone meditating. And I never said a word to her. I said, Annie, I hope your karma works out and you find something. Anyway, one day she walked into my gallery and said, Stuart, I found a cave. She said, well, you must have a pretty good real estate agent, find a cave in the Himal. And she disappeared for a year. I hadn't seen her for a year. She just went and lived in that cave. Then she told me this story that was extraordinary. How she began to live in this cave, meditate, and the people in the village in the Himal used to bring food to her and some sadhu who lived in a cave about maybe 50 meters away from her. And they would bring food. They were two holy people, and these holy people would look out for the village, and their energy was very good. And one day, one of the people from the village comes to Annie and says to her, look, you better get out of here. And she said, well, what? She said, this holy man, he's jealous of you. And he has threatened all of us that he's going to do something to hurt you if you don't get out of here. That he was the sole holy man of this village, and now you have interrupted his relationship with it. I mean, it's just amazing. You understand? We all need people. We all need people. We live in a world where we interact with human beings. And we can't interact with them if we judge them, if we're prejudicial, if we think our way of seeing the world is right and their way is not right. I always say there's 8 billion people in the world. Everybody sees a different reality, and nobody fits into anybody else's reality. And then you have all this conflict and war and problems and, religious and racial things and all kinds of nonsense where people are at each other's throats. We need to interact with people. At the same time, we have to let go. We have to listen to people, and understand that not everybody is going to fit into our reality. But if we interact with people and we listen to the people, we can find a place for them in our reality and let them be. Because you can't escape it. Part of karma is learning how to interact with people, learning how to love people and not judge them, and their religion is no good and my religion is good, and all this madness that goes on in the world. And we're going to create genocide to get rid of all these people because they believe in something we don't believe in. It's all stupid. And all it does is create war and creates madness in the world. So we need to learn to allow somebody to exist in our reality and not spend all our time judging them. And all it does is free us. We become more human because the heart has to open. There has to be compassion. There has to be forgiveness. There have to be all the elements that really touch upon the highest levels of our humanity. And that gives us the ability to be kind to other people. And it gives us the ability to truly, honestly work out the karma that we have to work out in this world. Because in order to do it, we have to live with an open heart. That's how you work out your karma, getting the heart open. And if somebody's difficult, bring them a flower. That difficult. I mean, I've told this story also a million times, but it's such a good story. I mean, when I used to be younger, I used to work in bars. And I would work as a waiter or a bartender or something like that in a bar. And I was working in this restaurant bar, and there was a bartender there that I could not ask him to give me a martini or a whiskey sour without getting into a fight with him. It was unbelievable. And I used to hear Rudy talking about the same stuff I'm talking about today. And I would say, my God, Stuart, this guy, I mean, he just being around him used to give me the creeps. Anyway, I'm standing at the bar one day and I had nothing to do. And he's talking to another waiter about how he's going to meet his girlfriend at midnight and have a midnight romantic breakfast with her. And I stood there and I said, this woman must be a saint. She certainly has a bigger heart than me. I can't even be around this guy. And I was amazed. Whoever that woman is, she taught me something really important about life. And she changed something in me because I began to look at this person differently. And because I grew in myself, I began to have a way of interacting with this other human being. And suddenly my working in that restaurant became better, easier for me to do. The fighting stopped. I changed. And I don't know, I never met that woman, but God bless her. The thought of waking up in the arms of that guy was something that was so extraordinary to me. I said, Stuart, there's something you have to change. Not that I wanted to wake up in his arms, but to learn to like him and find something human about him. And it really happened. And then we had some kind of interesting conversations. I mean, the whole thing, the energy changed. I changed. And it didn't matter if he didn't change. I changed. So look, no matter where you go in life, some kind of situation like this is going to be thrown in your face. Is your heart open? Are you strong enough to deal with that and not allow that to throw you or create some kind of crazy situation between oneself and another person? Those people exist in our lives to teach us how to get stronger. I even put in my book, there's a paragraph in there about how when I see Donald Trump, I didn't say Donald, my president, you know, all I feel is compassion. I mean, the unhappiness, the pain in him is so unbelievable that if he could turn it around and in his position of power, the guy would become a saint. And it's true. I hope that's clear, Darren. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, thank you. God bless you. Oh, just about this book of mine. I'm sorry I have to bother you with this all the time, but I think by the end of this week, there'll be a EPUB version that you could get from Amazon. At least that's what they said. It would take about 5 days, for that to happen. And also, in the middle of December, we're going to create an Audible book that you can drive in your car and listen to. So I think that's pretty exciting. I really like that idea. So things are moving along, and thank you. Thank you for being in my life. Without you all, that book wouldn't exist. And the growth that has taken place in my life because of people coming to these classes, it astounds me, and I find it absolutely remarkable. So God bless you all. Thank you. There'll be a meditation this evening. Pat Fay will teach, and tomorrow, on Tuesday, there'll be this 1 o'clock class. Tomorrow night, there'll also be a class. Thank you. Bless you.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you.